The first time my friend hit me with a shadow creature in Magic the Gathering 30 years ago, I was hooked. I loved building turtle strategies, walls, defenses, dragging the game out, but he was a cheater and slipped right past it with unblockable shadows. And then it was that puzzle of how do I answer this that pulled me deep into deck crafting. Later in Magic, I was all about piecing together massive engines with wild loops that could win on command. Those combos taught me two things: possibility is king and balance matters. My favorite tabletop games have always been deck builders. When the Magic the Gathering Arena was in beta, it was full of infinite loops and 2-card win buttons. I could crash the client on command with massive combos, and I loved it. But as the game matured and those engines disappeared, so the system could handle the load. Creativity narrowed, and I fell out of it. And then I saw ads for Ariokan, a game where you can actually customize cards. Balancing mechanics has always been my favorite part of game design. So I reached out to the devs for a key, which I had never done before. They were incredibly open. I told them I would do my best to break the game, and they said, perfect. Please give us at least 3 videos and don't hold back on the downs. They were confident I wouldn't find many, and if I did, they wanted to know about them so they could fix them. And that attitude, it immediately earned my respect. This game is still in beta, and I want to be clear about that, but from the moment I've jumped in, I've been excited to stress this system in every way I can and see what holds. And that's where my first rub with the company comes in. I had my review all written, and I had even communicated with them their intent on the downs that I sent them. Were they on the roadmap? Were they aware of them? They were super open and kind about everything. And then, when all I had left was to record, an update hit. And they reached out to me to say, hey, we think you should take another look. That's where it was. The major downs I had called out, they had started working on them and already had them patched within the time it took me to write this. My script was ruined because they were awesome and listened to feedback. Those jerks. In Ariokan, you don't just deck craft, you card craft too. And that connects directly into how the factions, legends, and gods shape your deck. I usually build walls and do chip damage now in most of the card games I play. So I tried tiny units that doubled every turn. They ballooned out of control really fast. And then matchmaking caught up with me, and soon I was facing complex builds with new effects and keywords, which pushed me back into the editor. I probably spent, and I wrote this the first week, 40 hours straight tweaking stats, but now it's been 2.5 weeks, and that's probably closer to 80 to 100 hours. Adding drawbacks, trying to squeeze one more perk in to keep the cards playable, watching costs shift between every adjustment makes the system feel fair, like a puzzle you can't quite put down. The auto balance is pretty airtight, for single cards at least. Every time I tried to force a 1-card hit button, the math stopped me. That keeps freedom alive without letting you snap the game in half. The editor isn't perfect though. One misclick can wipe out hours of work because there's no draft saves or confirmations. Perk conflicts still need clear flags so you can see right away when 2 of your choices aren't playing nice together. Testing has its quirks too. The default decks don't trigger some of the mechanics, and the fast ramp up in the deck testing tricked me into designing much beefier cards than would actually work in real matches. The good news is, though, a redesigned card editor is coming, and the ability to edit your existing cards is already on the roadmap. So these pain points are likely to get smoothed out before release. On top of that card work, you've got the layers of factions, legends, and gods. Factions provide broad identities. Their mechanics and keywords shape the flavor of your decks. Gods are the anchors, representing the major archetypes that give the factions weight. The legends sharpen things down a little bit further. They're kind of milestones that guide your deck and give you mid-game goals. Some are tightly tied to their factions, while others are more broadly playable, which gave me all kinds of new angles to push. One of the big things that they've recently done is they've added a weekly rotation. No faction is locked out anymore. Every Monday, 7 gods and 7 legends, 1 per faction, rotate in for everyone. Even if you haven't unlocked them permanently, you can try every faction right away. That is a huge plus that was missing when I first started my review. In all honesty, this has been some of the most fun I've had in a card game in a very long time. And the company has been unrealistically responsive too, which has just blown me away. They told me to bring it, and instead of getting defensive when I came with some big hits, They parried and reposted and fixed the solution faster than I thought possible. They seem kind, and they legitimately want to make a great game. I hope they can keep that spark, and I hope that this does well. All right, so let's talk downs real quick. First, some UI quirks. The exit button is buried in the menus a little bit, and be aware that the tutorial card you make, don't get too attached to it. I did. Won't be saved in your collection. Small things, but they stick out. Then there's a gap in the faction info. Right now, there's no in-game or site list that clearly lays out which factions have which mechanics. A chart would be super nice when we're making cards. The devs say it's on the roadmap, but until it lands, new players are kind of left guessing a little bit, or a lot of trial and error. In general, the whole UI just needs kind of a once-over. Some polish across all the menus and the editor would go a really long way. It was my biggest point of contention with the game. I loved everything else. The good news is that's on the roadmap already. Full UI rework, redesigned editor, and the onboarding flow are all in progress, so I'm not too worried about it. It's just not there yet. On the balanced side, I've got two kind of neutrals. First, you can still make 2-card engines. I love that. The single card math is airtight for the most part. I couldn't break it with one busted card, but I did find some 2-card combos that really went off. Honestly, I see that as spice, not a flaw. The devs are tuning matchmaking and loop detection to keep it healthy, so I'm glad those crazy engines still exist. Pacing is another thing. I wanted to try to make everything all at once, and that's not how games work. For games like this, I think that's actually a good thing. It keeps you coming back, and on top of that, they've added a free booster every 12 hours, which is kind of insane. Now for the ups. One thing I loved is how much this game rewards tinkering. Even when I lost, I'd walk away with new ideas on how to tweak either a card or make a whole new deck. Wins gave me that same itch. I was already planning the next card I wanted to create halfway through the match. That loop of play, reflect, tweak, repeat, that hooked me even more than normal deck building because I could make that card that was missing. The biggest surprise though, and the real highlight, was the validation through community. One of the greatest feelings I've ever had in a card game, I didn't know I could have. It was when I saw my own creations show up in somebody else's deck. The first time it happened, I froze a little bit. I didn't recognize what was going on at first, and then it clicked. Wait, that's mine. It wasn't stolen from me. At first it felt weird, like I was being attacked by my own ideas, but then it sank in. My card was good enough that another player spent resources on it and trusted it in their build. And watching them use it in ways that I didn't even think of, that was incredible. That moment, seeing your design escape into the wild, is something that no other trading card game has given me. This game takes me back to when I was 9 or 10 in the best kind of ways. And in the PTSD kind of ways. I see my best friend's shadow creatures creeping up on me in 3 factions here, and 2 of the legends have it or work with it. I hate it because it still works on me, and I love it because I can build almost anything within reason. If I won every game, there wouldn't be a reason to go back to crafting. The balance feels good, and the only complaint I had was really UI things. And it's a beta. They're going to get polished. The other big surprise was working with the devs. They're the first team I've interacted with since I started this channel, and man, they were amazing. I half expected to get banned from their Discord because I kept spamming them with ideas and questions, but they took it all in stride, good and bad. They seem like a good team, making a game they really care about, and they want to make it good. For context on my score here, Magic sits at a 7 out of 10. Its legendary depth weighed down by bloat and cost. Gundam lands about the same, promising but still proving itself. Star Wars Unlimited edges ahead a little bit at 7.5 out of 10, thanks to its fresh expansions and some of the mechanics that I really liked. Ariokan is already at a 7 or a 7.5 for me. In our scoring system, 5 is an average game, a 9 is genre defining, and a 10 is game of the year. Coming out of beta, this could easily be an 8 or 9. I'm super excited to see where they take it and how they keep interacting with the community. Alright, have you ever had a deck idea spiral out of control in the editor? Give this video a like. If you ever tried to outpace a Loki deck with a Knight's Tavern card I made, summon more videos with a subscribe button to join my growing party of knights. Drop a purple and green heart in the comments if you've ever seen one of your creations show up in someone else's deck, and share how it felt to have it appreciated. Thank you, and as always, it's what we do.